There seems to be a vocal minority that anytime anything with a wing is added to World of Warships, come crawling out of the woodwork to say how the game is being ruined. Battle carriers do seem to be in a really strong place right now, and I do think they need some nerfing. I have some ideas on that, but is it really game ruining? You decide. Why do they need nerfed? Let's break that down first. Legends went in an entirely different direction with these things than the PC version of the game. On PC, you control the squadrons yourself, just as if you were an aircraft carrier captain. Which does seem a little counterintuitive because you can't really play a battleship and position and brawl and do all these things and then fly planes around at the same time. So on Legends, you simply drop an airstrike as if it's an alternative armament, and it keeps you more focused on being a battleship, just with different armaments. In my opinion, that makes them really, really strong. And I do think torp drops are in need of some nerfing. At longer ranges, torp drops are okay. You can catch a player sitting in one spot, you can nuke them for 25 or 30k with Louisiana. But when they become really powerful is when a ship is pushing you. You set up your own crossfire in the blink of an eye. Astute players know they should slam on the brakes and of course be able to dodge. You have 12 seconds to react to them. You don't exactly need to be a Formula 1 driver, but sometimes it is still hard to avoid them. I myself have been creamed by an airstrike and I just didn't have the time to react, or my brain was just doing other things, and yeah, I mean, it can happen to anyone. Look at this for example. Obviously, I'm up against a Louisiana. I know the capabilities of the ship because I've been abusing it for about 20 games now, and I still didn't really have time to get out of the way of this drop, or I didn't see it coming in. For battleships with longer rudder shift times, which let's face it at legendary tier is all of them, this can be pretty hard to counter. Think of a Montana with a 23-second rudder shift time. If you're in a turn and these torps are dropped on you, you can't dodge them, so you can just tank and eat the damage. But the bigger problem with this that I see is just not seeing the airstrikes coming in, because things can get so convoluted. If you're watching the mini-map and you're seeing catapult fighters, spotting planes, carrier planes, air patrols, and now with battle carriers in the game, say there's a couple on each team, you have drops and airplanes popping up all over the place. It's very easy to get lost on what is happening. So I would like a visual on the screen to help in avoiding these airstrikes and give players another chance at counterplay. How could they do that? Well, on PC, when a rocket plane attack comes in, right before that, basically before the rocket planes hit, there is a strafing run, and it just gives a little bit of visual on where the ordnance is going to come in and give players a little more chance at dodging. Since it is already implemented on PC, surely it can't be that hard to bring over to our game. I know I hear the dev team now saying that's hard to implement due to coding or whatever. So fine, in that case, then the airstrikes need to be toned down. Slow down torp speed a little more or nerf the alpha. I do admit I'm mostly talking about the Louisiana here. That's the ship I spent the most time with. But yeah, they feel very, very strong. Now, they're strong against battleships. Let's say that. So these ships are in a powerful place, but it doesn't mean they really have a high battle impact. I think it kind of balances out there. We'll talk about that more in depth a little bit later. I'm getting ahead of myself. So counterplay to these ships. Also, we'll talk about that in a bit. Before we jump into a match, I would like to talk about the build and how I've been setting these ships up, because people are going to ask. Turret Traverse and Artil Plotting Room on Louisiana. On the lower tier ships, I would absolutely use the AA module. In 20 games at LT, I only had one Hakiryu match. So yeah, Louisiana, just do Turret Traverse. These ships have really good AA though, so speccing into the AA range is pretty good. I'm using a traditional American battleship captain with an accuracy build, so nothing special there. I did test out a 15-2 Joseph Reeves and had some good games with him as well. He just makes the airstrikes even that much more powerful. I guess the way you have to think about it is, how are you going to get the majority of your damage in a game? Is it with my main guns or dropping airstrikes? And the guns are cycling on reloads every 27, 28, 29, 30 seconds, whatever, however you have your build set up, while the airstrikes are really every minute and a half or so. So for me, I would rather have more reliable guns. Today we are on Haven. Capture the base, unfortunately. This is a pretty fun map. And for those wondering what to do with these behemoths during a match, there are a few things to keep in mind. Number one, you have really bad concealment and you are a massive target, so whatever you do, Make your decision immediately. If you're turn out very early and give yourself extra time, even more so than a typical battleship. Think Grosser Kerr first. Like, you're going to be one of the first ones spotted. And since these things have airplanes on the deck, you're probably going to get focused really, really hard. I had one match where I was the first one dead because of this. And another match, even when I knew what I was doing, I lost half of my hit points. Speaking of, on that note, Kondo would be a great inspiration choice, and I actually had him on the football helmet guy, and when I did Azur Lane New Jersey build, I just didn't change that over, but I would consider that for the concealment because, yeah, it would be good. Now, also on Louisiana, typically, I would turn out because the forward firing angle on that back quad turret is really, really terrible, and then you're going to be stuck bow in, and you're leaving a lot of firepower on the table. It has good kiting angles, though, so I like to turn out in Louisiana. Unfortunately, though, Haven mid-spawn, we just did not have that option. We're going to drop an early airstrike on the Montana over there. It looked like he had some fires going, so I was hoping to catch a perm flood here, and let's go back to airstrike mode and see what happens. He is turning in, but yeah, see how he has a fire burning? I didn't know if he had damage conned anything previously. Anyways, I was just thinking you have a pretty good opportunity of trying to either get a good damage con cycle on somebody or a permanent something to stick some way, somewhere with a good airstrike. But either way, it got us up to 30k, and so we're going to have we're going to deal a little more damage or a faster reload. I can't remember which one. Artillery accuracy, right? Better accuracy. Kitakaze up close. That is a little spooky. He could smoke up and absolutely farm us with that 30 mil pin. Lucky for me, though, this Kitakaze player seems to be a little newer, perhaps. Let's put it that way. But anyways, counterplay to these ships. I said I would talk about that. Number one, I would just keep your head on a swivel. If one's in the air, you just know they could drop you at any time. That's not very helpful. Okay, so the other thing to know is they can only drop you from the direction of their ship. Did you see that Montana coming in? And you saw the angles that I could drop him. I could not get a 90-degree perpendicular drop on his ship because the planes are coming from my deck, I suppose, and so that is something else to keep in mind. AA bubbles also are very effective. They can shoot down strike planes before they get torpedoes in the water. So if you're at LT and you see a minnow or something near you, think of using them for an AA bubble, and that could be beneficial. Also, the range on these ships is limited. On Louisiana here, I think it's around 14 kilometers that they can drop strikes. Yeah, that looks to check out there. Was that 13.5? So ships like the Conqueror, Burgonia, kiting cruisers, they're super, super deadly to these battle carriers since they just have to stay out of range, basically, and farm the massive HP pool. And yeah, that's some ideas you could use there. Kitakaze came out of the smoke. Did he get radared? I suppose. Is that what happened here? Yeah. But that is going to be good because, again, that guy could have just sat there and farmed me down really hard. As you can see, the ship has a lot of real estate. Now, watch this drop. I have done this a couple times where it looks like I'm going to clear an island and get the torps on target. That would have been an easy kill on Montana there. But if we watch and see, the torps actually drop into the island and don't do any damage. And that's happened a couple times to me, so just be wary of that. You want to give them a little bit of space so that you can get your drop off. Speaking of anti-air, these battle carriers have amazing AA. Louisiana's damage per second against planes is 701 stock. That is the highest in the whole game, if I'm not mistaken. So taking burst damage out of the equation, flak damage, this should be the best AA in the game. So for the lower tiers, when you're going to be playing against carriers a lot, you might as well spec into it and have some fun with it. I had one Hikiryu game that I was using turret traverse module, and the hacky focused me most of the game. I did get a clear skies, and he was still coming back with plenty of planes, so there's something to be said about aircraft restoration time still at legendary tier at least, but that's a topic for another day. But definitely the low tier ones, I would put AA module in slot 1. Absolutely, absolutely. Conqueror's showing us a little bit of broadside here, so we should get another good salvo on him. And I found the accuracy of these ships pretty good. I never got a figure on the Sigma, but I'm guessing it's typical American battleship-esque, like a 1.9 or something like that. That's what it feels like. They're pretty accurate without putting a ton into it. Even with the Joseph Reeves build, I felt like they did okay. Louisiana. This is a powerful ship. Even with the bad concealment and the bad maneuverability, and being about the biggest target in the game, aside from Grosser Kerfer. Speaking of which, this guy's pushing, so I'm gonna again try to slow him down over there. We're losing this match terribly. The other side of the map just has gotten steamrolled. So we're gonna try to slow down that push over there. I'm again hoping for a permanent flood or something like that. But if I recall, let's see how these torps do. 4 hits, but yeah, nothing permanent, unfortunately. Holland and Kitakaze are both up, and our Sejong played amazing. I was super impressed by our Sejong. He was just murdering people over here, and just wait till you see the move that he does a little bit later. Super ballsy. Shots out on Holland, though. It looks good, but I think he turned in a little bit, so 3 overpens. We didn't quite finish him off there, but Sejong is going to. Unfortunately, I've been distracted this whole time, so Monty has just been pumping shells into me. And if we would have got that first drop off on him, or whatever, it was the second drop when I hit the island, it would have been great to finish him off there. But unfortunately, he is going to have a pretty good game, and we just didn't get him killed fast enough. And he takes a lot of our HP, and that is unfortunate. So I do feel like these ships are pretty powerful right now against battleships. And that means they don't really have the highest battle impact, and my win rate can attest to that, as we've gotten tons of games with a lot of damage. I want to say my average damage in this ship is probably 130,000, 135,000, which for a battleship at legendary tier, that's on the higher end of things. I would say that would be in my top 3 for sure. So they're really good at farming damage. But just because you can farm damage, it doesn't mean you're going to win games. The battle carriers, in my eyes, they're not very good against destroyers and cruisers, and those are ships that really win games. There was a Monty torp strike. Nailed him with 6 torps. That was perfect. Didn't finish him off, but Sejong did. And again, look at this Sejong play. Guy comes out, chose violence, torps off of both sides for a double strike. Beautiful play. I love it. I love it. Unfortunately, though, we are double fired. And the question is, will the damage con come off of cooldown fast enough for us to survive? Basically, right now, I think I'm going to die, so I want to pump out as much more damage as I can, because it's a close game. Well, it was close right until about then, but still, it's a pretty close game. So I need to give my last teammates just a little bit more of a fighting chance. 2 seconds left, 1 second. Perfect. We get the damage con off. Unfortunately, we are spotted because the Khabarovsk has sailed all the way around over to here. Lepanto is actually looking at us, so we're going to sail forward really quickly, and hopefully those super high velocity guns cannot get to me, and our airstrike is off cooldown in 5 seconds, and hopefully we can get another salvo over there as well. And maybe that's all we need if our Grosser Kerfer can kill the Khabarovsk. I don't know, somehow, some way. Salvo's out on Lepants. I know I'm about to die soon, so we're going to drop this airstrike. Lepanto goes down, and I'm guessing here I don't really have the angle on this Yamato because, again, the airstrikes come from the direction of your ship. So I'm hoping just to drop him and maybe get a perm flood on his nose. Kaba, though, unfortunately finds us with his 12 kilometers range. And, yeah, we're going to die here. Let's go check and see if our torpedoes did anything against the Yamato to give our Grosser Kerfer one last fighting chance. One little bonk on the nose for a perm flood. No dice, unfortunately. But we'll watch our GK and see what he can pull out here. Overall, again, I think these ships are pretty darn good. The airstrikes are kind of clunky to aim at first, but once you get used to it, they're really good, and they can become kind of easy. Auto aim is very powerful. It takes care of a lot of it for you. Just make sure you have the enemy selected before you fire or before you go into your targeting mode, and then just adjust your lead a little bit. Try to predict where the enemy is going to go. 7 out of 10 times, though, I would say the auto aim is going to do just fine for you, unless you have a particularly fast or slippery enemy that you'll kind of have to adjust for. I think these ships are powerful. They're fun. Again, the battle impact to me is not that great. So even though you can damage enemy battleships a lot, it doesn't mean you're going to win games. and that has held very, very true. So sure, nerf the airstrikes a little bit, maybe add that strafing run just to give people a little bit more time to get out of the way, and I think these things are just fine. Honestly, they're super fun. I'm having a blast with them. But I am curious, of course, what you guys have to say, so let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear from you. I don't think they're game breaking by any means. You know, and my 47% win rate could talk about that a little bit. But fun game, 230k or so, and it wasn't enough, again, because most of the damage was against battleships. But this is Derka signing off. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.